How do you become emotionally available so you can stop having the same unhealthy relationships time and time again and attracting emotionally unavailable people? By the end of this video, you'll know the steps to rewire your emotional responses and reset the baseline of your nervous system so you can break out of your emotional unavailability and be open to healthy, secure love. As someone who spent years being emotionally unavailable and deterring healthy partners, these principles were a game changer for me. And I want to help you do the same because this is the work that I do with my clients. You can book a call on my calendar to speak with me directly so that I can guide you on your healing journey. Just book in the link below. So if you keep attracting the same emotionally unavailable partners, and if you have trust issues, you notice you're hypervigilant with them, you're always overthinking in relationship and in kind of perfectionism, living in a fantasy world or compulsively daydreaming, these are all signs that you're emotionally unavailable. And when you're cut off from your emotions and from your signals in the body, you're living your life from the surface of who you are, okay? You don't actually know who you are because there are unconscious parts of you that are actually running your life. You can't handle your emotions. That's what the definition of emotional unavailability is. I remember feeling like I was living my life small, like there were parts of me that were making decisions that, kept on repeating the same patterns time and time again. And to be honest, I didn't really feel like I knew who I was. Those parts of you, those unconscious parts that keep you emotionally unavailable, keep you repeating the same patterns of who you're attracted to, the compulsive or numbing or distracting behaviors that you keep doing, like addictions, alcohol, too much television. It's like there's this deep part of you that's in control that doesn't believe you're worthy of love or that you're good enough. And the patterns that you then do because of those core wounds keep reinforcing those deep core beliefs, and the cycle just keeps going round and round, and your emotional unavailability gets stronger. Now, when you're emotionally unavailable, you can't handle or process your emotions. Your emotional metabolism is slow. Your nervous system is dysregulated and you get overwhelmed easily and you shut off. You live from the neck up, all right? It's a really dissatisfying way to live. Like I said, I lived a lot of my adult life like it, and it caused a lot of chaos in my love life. And I always was feeling like I was meant for more, right? There was this other life that I was supposed to be living, but I was limited some way and I was never living up to my full potential. So I'm speaking from experience in this video. These concepts were a game changer for me. So firstly, there's so much advice here on YouTube that focuses on what I call top-down strategies to heal, right? Let's talk about it, let's think about it, write about it, let's journal, let's meditate, focusing on our cognition around it. Now, I'm not saying that that's not helpful, and it certainly is to create meaning and stories, and that's what our nature is as human beings. But the actual origin of emotional unavailability comes from core wounds that live in the body. They were created in the body, and when we keep pushing down the same things again and again, when we push down, guess where they go? They go down into the body, like energetically, they live there. So we actually have to work from the body to rewire and retrain our patterns and responses to our own emotions. So step one is learning to regulate your nervous system. So emotional unavailability is a trauma response. It's a type of trauma response that comes from responding to trauma that happened when you were young, and you weren't able to deal with that. And the main trauma that happens if you're emotionally unavailable is that you had parents or caregivers that were emotionally unavailable themselves. And so because you weren't feeling seen, heard, understood, and you weren't allowed to express and feel emotions, your emotions were bad, that was where you first learned to stuff those things down and to cut off any time of felt sense of abandonment or neglect. And this is not just capital T trauma, these are little experiences that build up over time. You might have had a loving household like I did, but you just felt that your emotions weren't okay, that there was no place for them in yourself, and you didn't learn how to regulate them because your parents around you didn't have that same level of emotional literacy within themselves that you needed to learn from. Now, interestingly, your nervous system grows up around this experience over time, okay? So the trauma is going on and it's subtle and subconscious, and you probably don't even remember it. You probably have very little memory of your childhood, which is a big sign of that there was trauma, particularly complex trauma there, and your nervous system grows up around it. So you're always in hypervigilance, you overthink a lot of the time, there's a lot of anxiety in your body. So the first step we actually need to do to heal our emotional unavailability is to work with our nervous system to get into safety. Okay, so you need to know your safety baseline for your nervous system, and you need to get to know where your nervous system is living at the moment, and it's going to be different from others. So the best way to do this is to look at this nervous system scale and identify where you are on this scale. So now in the blue, the numbers 0 to sort of 4 are what I call the rest and digest numbers, where you're feeling relaxed, you're feeling safe, you can fall asleep quite easily, super, super duper relaxed. Number 5 is kind of a mix of both. It's a bit of a tipping point where you're feeling somewhat calm, but you could tip into survival, or, stress could kind of take you over at any time. It's that tipping point. And then numbers 6 to 10 are the red survival numbers. So you are in fight, flight, freeze, fawn. You are in a survival state. You aren't drinking enough water. You're not listening to your body's responses. You are anxious. You are not breathing deeply. So you're breathing shallow. You are overthinking. You're obsessive. If I'm describing you as you are most of the time, it's a sign that you are stuck in survival most of the time, which means your nervous system is dysregulated. So what number are you right now while you're watching this video? I want you to type your number in the comments below. I'd be really curious to hear. So start with your overall state. So where you are right now as you're watching this video, and what's been your number, say today or this week. And just notice when you're in the blue, when you're in the red, and just notice what your average number is. So you might be really interested to discover that your resting state is actually in the red. I know people that live in the red all the time, and they only kind of go into the blue when they're asleep. And then they get woken up at like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, because cortisol naturally spikes in the body at that time. And if you've been carrying too much cortisol during the day, that little injection of cortisol that naturally occurs at 3 a.m. will spike you into being awake, and you'll be back in the red again. Now, we need to consciously get ourselves back into the blue. That's what this step is all about. So start with learning breathing techniques. Learn how to breathe properly from the belly. Learn how to slow down your breathing. Any kind of breathing where your exhale is longer than your inhale will allow you to get into the blue. Doing a self-hug, doing a head hold, any kind of self-soothing. Just look at self-soothing in YouTube, do yoga nidra, do a meditation, and do this on a daily basis and allow yourself to get into the blue at least once a day. And track your nervous system as you do. What's your waking number? What's your sleeping number? And as you do your blue practices, as I call them, is your number going down gradually, or is it not? What's going on in your day that's causing you to go into your red? How can you set boundaries around your red, right? There's so much we can do with this scale. But the most important thing here is that we're growing body awareness. So if you've come from only ever having like toxic, unhealthy relationships, and you aren't feeling cut off and numb, and you're emotionally unavailable in that way that you literally don't have access to the body and the emotions, we need to start to just build body awareness and to look for signals and signs that you're dysregulated. So when I started doing this and I had no body awareness, I would notice what behaviors I would do that tell me I was dysregulated. Like I'd always kind of bump into the wall. Like I would, like really quite significantly hurt myself. This isn't a conversation around what's neurotypical and what's neurodivergent behavior, because there are crossovers there as well. This is a conversation about looking for signals and signs that you're dysregulated in your body with your nervous system. So please take this information with a grain of salt and discern it according to where you're at, what's applicable to you. Now, as we practice daily to get into the blue, you'll notice that sometimes you need to be in the red, right? There is such thing as good stress, but we just want to make sure it's not our daily home base, okay? So we're really encouraging ourselves to allow ourselves to get into the blue. And like I said, those body signals and body awareness is what's going to kickstart our connection to ourselves and to start to grow our emotional availability, which is really what we pinpoint in step 2, which is reconnecting to your emotional experience. So like I said previously, you've been disconnected from your emotional experience because emotional unavailability is a trauma response, and you had a small window of tolerance and didn't learn how to deal with your emotions or know what they are, or even accept that they're safe to feel. And so you cut off from them and have this kind of core wound grow in this sense of feeling that you're not worthy and you're not good enough and your emotions aren't okay and that you're too needy. But now we need to open up Pandora's box, so to speak, while making sure we're continuing to do step 1, because we don't want to flood the system. We need to track our nervous system and make sure we stay safe while we do this. And a caveat here, if you know that you can't stay safe in your body and you're going to flood yourself with emotion and get into what I call a shame spiral, I've been there. It is traumatizing. You make the situation worse. Don't do that. Please reach out to a friend, reach out to a coach, a therapist, whoever. Do this guided with someone so they can pull you out if need be. Now, in terms of reconnecting to emotions, this is where I find a cognitive process of language can be very helpful. Language is a good entry point into feeling because it allows us to give it some kind of a label and acknowledge its existence. When there's no label, when there's no language, we can gaslight ourselves into thinking we're not feeling that or not kind of even acknowledge that we're even feeling them. So in order to pinpoint what emotion you're feeling, just print out an emotions wheel like this one and put it somewhere where you'll see it every day, on the fridge or on the back of the toilet door, somewhere where you might take a natural pause and you can look at the wheel and identify in that moment what emotion is coming up for me now, or what emotion has been kind of living in my body today. And that will allow us to get started. Now, with that wheel, you might find if you don't have capacity to connect to the nuance of emotion in your body, you might just start with the primary emotions in the middle of the wheel. Just notice when you're feeling happy or sad or angry or bad, like the really basic ones, and then start to grow the nuance as you become more capable of identifying emotions inside your body. Now, part of step 2 is not only connecting to them, but it's actually allowing our emotions to live and exist inside of us. Because remember, in that trauma response, we learned when we felt an emotion and it was not allowed to be there, we didn't see healthy emotional metabolism being modeled by our parents, and we just had to push it down. That's what we do now that keeps us emotionally unavailable. We actually need to allow those emotions to exist, including the uncomfortable ones. So we need to welcome them instead of pushing them down. And there's going to be a part of you that says, I don't want to do that. It's going to make it worse. Trust me, believe me, pushing it down makes it worse than feeling it and allowing it to come out. What I see happens in my clients is there's a lot of fear around doing that, but once they actually do it and they notice that they're safe and it's okay to feel their emotions, and you get that little taste for, this is an okay thing. It's like learning to ride that bike without the training wheels for the first time. Oh, wow, I can actually do this. Like, allow yourself to believe that it's going to be okay to feel that feeling. So just pretend like you're inviting a stranger into your house for a cup of tea. They're not going to stay. They are a stranger. It might feel uncomfortable them being there, particularly if it's an uncomfortable emotion. They're going to leave, but you're just allowing them to have a cup of tea, to talk to you, to tell you what's going on, what it feels like. I know that sounds a bit esoteric, but we actually just need to give our emotions that kind of space in our body. So give it space and time to exist for a moment in yourself. And when you give emotions permission to exist in your body, they often release, right? Just by having the space to exist, that will naturally happen. And it's really normal for crying to happen or for you to get a little bit teary. So continue to do step 1 work. Stay safe in your body. And again, do this with a friend, coach, or therapist if you feel that you can't do it on your own and you can't stay safe. Because the thing that I don't want to happen to if you're taking this advice is for you to drop into your body, feel all these feelings, get completely flooded, and shame happens and you actually re-traumatize yourself. So please do stay within your window of tolerance. Recognize and stay safe within your nervous system, and that's why step 1 is step 1. Step 3 is to honor your body's signals. So you've previously shut down your emotions, which has also shut down your body's signals by disassociating. So you've been living from the neck up, so to speak, but you've now laid the groundwork with step 1 and step 2 to have a safe internal experience of allowing the emotions to live in the body and for us to explore our body's signals more. Now, why do we need to explore our body's signals? This is because our body is actually incredibly intelligent. Our body actually tells us what boundaries we need to set, what needs we have that we need to honor. A lot of it comes from the body first, and we're used to kind of like gaslighting ourselves or trying to manipulate ourselves into thinking, no, that's wrong, we're wrong, that's not our intuition, whatever. We actually now need to start to listen to the body's signals. So if you've previously confused what your intuition is as opposed to what your like sabotaged or false self or trauma response self is, use this tool, the frequency chart, that's going to allow you to discern whether that signal coming from your body is intuition or whether it's trauma. So the general rule is, and I've spoken about it here on my channel, is that if you feel expanded when you're experiencing that signal or that emotion, that's an emotion that's coming from your true self. That is true to you. If you're feeling contracted in the body, chances are it's coming from a trauma response or a fear response. So something like being really anxious and excited to be in love with someone, it's going to come with a mixture of desire and fear, which is a really contracted feeling, and also with a feeling of expansion. So listening to the difference between those two signals will tell you where your trauma response is and where your true feelings of love are, if that's what you're genuinely feeling for someone. So how does this change my relationship patterns? How does this make me become emotionally available and have a healthy relationship? I just want to go through it so you understand the impact of these. So step one is going to lessen your need for attachment to someone else in order to feel safe. Because when we are, emotionally unavailable and we don't feel safe in our body, we tend to attract the same types of people that reproduce the unhealthy dynamics from childhood, where we had to cling on to a parent even more, and we have that kind of anxious energy because we don't feel safe in the body. So when we learn internal safety, which is where safety actually starts from, it starts within you and your body, we are able to feel safe and okay to either be with someone in our life or not, okay? The trauma response is what got you clinging to others for validation and connection and keeps you in that unhealthy cycle of relationships. Learning safety within yourself allows you to meet that need for yourself, and then it allows you to meet someone else and see that they're healthy and that they match with you in a compatible way, and you add to your nervous system. It really allows you to feel even more safe than you do. It's kind of like the icing on top of the healthy, safe nervous system cake that you've developed for yourself, right? So in a trauma kind of response, when you're emotionally unavailable, that external source of safety is your only source of safety because you don't have that internal feeling within you. So step two then allows you to actually feel love, because this might be a hard pill to swallow. In previous relationships you've had where you thought you were in love, but you're emotionally unavailable, you were unavailable to the depths of feeling of love, and you weren't actually able to access them. Therefore, you weren't truly feeling love for that person. You were feeling your version of love at that time. I want to honor and validate that. But that version of love was sort of a superficial version of yourself, because deep feelings of love were scary and you didn't have the emotional capacity to feel them for all the reasons I've talked about already. You were loving from that surface level. So when we connect into our emotional experience, including all those uncomfortable ones, you're able to tolerate deeper, more expansive feelings. Your nervous system allows you to do that as well, because your window of tolerance is wider. And it's kind of like living in Technicolor as opposed to just living in the black and white emotional experience of emotional unavailability. All of a sudden, you have more of a vibrant emotional experience of being alive. And this does come with being awoken to deeper feelings of sadness and grief when things happen in your life, and unpleasant feelings. But because you've worked with your nervous system and you've widened your tolerance to experience it and to process grief and navigate more difficult emotions, you can ride the wave, which is what is having a natural, normal, healthy human emotional response. Now, step 3 is probably the most important step to becoming emotionally available, even though it might seem a little bit unusual if you've only just started to do it, because learning your signals from your body allows you healthy discernment about the types of people you have in your life and the relationships you go through. It also allows you to feel that you have a choice of relationship. You're not needing to get into a relationship because you feel safe on your own. And you can see, from a kind of a distant space, like you have that kind of detachment ability, and you're able to listen to your body to say, we're not sure about that person, or yeah, we're feeling respected by that person. So your body is actually a part of this conversation, and you're able to access this intelligent part of you that will tell you whether someone's healthy or not, because your intuition does come from these other energy centers in the body, all right? Comes from your heart, comes from your gut. And living in this way, living with your body's signals, allows you to live in more alignment with what's right for you. It's like your heart, your body, all of the energy points or chakras, if you call them, are in alignment with your head. And this allows you to filter all choices you make in your life through this more expansive and, kind of like state, rather than living from this contracted state where you're living on the surface and you're making very small, uninformed decisions for yourself. You make more choices that are better for you, and that includes your relationship ones. And if deepening your work on becoming more emotionally available is a priority for you, I'd love to speak with you. I'd love to chat with how I can better help guide you along that journey, because that is the work that I do with my clients. So there's a link to book a call directly to speak with me in my calendar below. And here are some next step videos for you to watch so you can move one step closer to having a healthy and beautifully emotionally available relationship with yourself and with others. And for now, I'll see you in the next video.